Hello YouTube, I'm back again with another video. It's been like God knows when I even made an actual rant video. Besides recently, because I'll admit this, I haven't been posting that type of content consistently. Because like I said before, waiting for results and wanting to hear more of my viewers have something to comment. And this video I'm about to talk about goes back to my community post. Where I addressed that I'm going to retire from playing the meta, and my brain, obviously, I've become fully aware that when you get older, you can't really be able to maintain a healthy game because you'll realize this cycle where it's just you constantly invest just to play the best deck. And the problem with playing with the best deck, it eventually dies down quick. And then you have to replace it with the new best deck. And I'm talking about the meta, which you need is better. In my advice, if you already have the staple cards, compete with the cards you have. Try to spend less. Wait for the cards to have reprint. Only if it's a card that is meant. If you have the money saved up, be my guest and purchase it. But there's more to what this game seems. And a lot of it involves Konami and their activities. There's still much to be said, but I want to give a shout out to Monkey Fight TCG. He has addressed this and he's defined and shown a lot of examples of several reasons why what Konami is doing to scam their community. It also involves the player base, and I personally, I don't know if he mentioned this, I blame the consumers and the people who are addicted to buying trading card packs, as well as people who wouldn't spend a lot of money, because that encourages Konami's activities. And I'm gonna mention the activities that was especially said by Monkey Fight TCG. He deserves my respect, and I was able to give him a shout out throughout my past community posts. So, short printing. The YouTubers hype these rare cards that have like this generic effect that is a card that people believe is a must-have, a staple, 3 of, whether it be an extra, usually an extra monster usually consists of 1, but you get easy access if you catch what I mean. So, but a lot of these generic staple cards, Konami wants to hear what the YouTubers, their opinion about that card, and how they see fit, if they think the card will be able to see play in the future. And I'm personally not a YouTuber. I'm just a guy who enjoys making content based on his hobbies and interests. But one thing you notice about a lot of these YouTubers are very hypocritical. They never entirely address the issues with Konami and the bad decisions that they make and how they are ruining the community, which they are. But if anything, the cause of this is the community itself, the fan base. Because like I said, people are addicted to buying packs, constantly buying the new meta deck, and we don't need to name people. Even if they have the money, it makes it harder for the new players to actually be able to participate. And speaking of, one thing I want to see more of when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I want more women, more children to actually get involved. Because I'm just tired of seeing, and one thing is very accurate, you literally see a lot of the same people topping that are on YouTube. Whether it be regionals, let's forget about locals. And one thing I do know for a fact, Monkey Fight is absolutely right about this. Has a valid point. A lot of these chase cards, their market value, their market price tends to be like $70, $89, and for a reason why, because they're not the ones who are making the price. It's the third market. And the reason being is because Konami short print these cards due to the fact you have a lot of YouTubers hyping these cards. And not only that, there's more to it, to this game. You gotta talk about the ban list. I'm not gonna forget about the ban list. That's one thing I need to bring up, which is very important and very crucial. The idiots, the meta contenders who are willing to pay, you can just do the research. around 1K for a deck, literally $1,000 for a meta deck. Like once it's about to get open, eventually the prices will drop, and afterwards give it 2 or 3 months. Those cards eventually, depending how much they top throughout regionals and how much play that deck is seeing, how much reviews, how the amount of results that deck is getting due to the amount of wins, and the opinions of people that say that the deck is very broken and is one of the top contenders, one of the top contending archetypes, one of the most broken usable decks out there. If you have the fundable income, you can purchase it. If you manage to save, net deck, copy and paste. Konami takes that into consideration. Either they ban some of the cards, or yeah, they might possibly limit it. Who knows? But just for example, Tier Shizu, uh, future deck that's gonna possibly get is Kashtira. Consider I already sold pretty much all my Kashtira cards because consider how expensive they are. Like you might as well get that money before you lose collateral damage. Because when cards get hit, it's best like make the most use as possible as you can, and while they're worth money, sell it. Once they get reprinted, wait for a ban list, find out what's gonna happen in that ban list, and if that deck isn't, if that card isn't clear, repurchase it for a better price. That's all it is. That's the best route. That's simply my strategy. You do when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I personally believe that you have to sell your cards in order to compete, in order to keep up with the meta as well as keep up with the game if you want to play competitive. And these thumbnails themselves are very important. They're a big scam, like I mentioned. Here's the proof. It's like I said before. The cards that are being hyped are usually the cards that are being short printed. And the third market decides, since these cards are short printed and people are having a hard time pulling these cards, let's up the market value of this card to approximately 70, 80, $90, 100. And eventually, once those cards get reprinted, they'll eventually drop down heavily. They will plummet in price. And I mean going from hundreds to as eventually $50, and then somewhat when the cards get even older, will eventually go down from 50 to 30, 20, $10, or even less. Who knows? But if the card happens to be like a staple, whether it may be in the side deck or main deck, they will retain the value at somewhere around 10 to 15, $20, or $5 or more, depending on the card. But that's just my estimate. That's just what I think. Because one thing it is very true is that one thing we can't argue is that cards that tend to actually see play, that are very useful, that is a must-have, whether it be like a staple 3 of, those are cards that won't drop to less than $1. And especially that when you know more people, when you expect someone to actually utilize that card, why would the third market, why would Konami or even think that the card will be less than $1? Because what they'll try to do is, not many people are aware of, is that they'll reprint those cards sometimes, but then they'll also try and shorten, for example, Pot of Prosperity. And considering I feel like it has like 2 or 3 reprints. I think it's 1 reprint. My bad. Not even 3. My bad. Eventually, I'll probably get a 3rd reprint, but I feel like as of now, it has 1 reprint. Even with that 1 reprint, the card is still above $50 because it is one of those cards that people must have in order to get to their win condition. And you're seeing the top 6, potentially the top 6, and that card, those top 6 cards will make a huge difference because you only pick out of those 6 one of them that you need in order for your deck to go off, in order to build a certain board, in order for you to maintain a strong offense. And going straight here, I want to talk about the quality control. Where I come from in Canada, whether it be OTS packs or sealed product, I personally, my opinion, I just say move away from sealed product. Unless like you're buying structure, like that's different. But guaranteed, people like this goes back to the people who are buying packs, gambling, hoping to pull the chase card. But it's one thing if you're supporting a local store. Obviously, unfortunately, one of my local stores, they use cardboard memories. They personally prefer selling sealed product. They don't sell that many singles. You're not gonna get the cards you want. But at the same time, there is the reason behind that is because they make more profit out of sealed product rather than selling singles. Because if you were in my situation, if you came down in my area, you realize not many they don't have that many employees. It's usually like a family-owned business, so a small local store, literally 2 or 3 employees, not many people. They're not really hiring, so it kind of makes sense why they're not willing to go through all the trouble opening packs because they need a number of people to like organize everything, keep the cards in order, and they don't have this. And if you look at the size of the store, the inside is small, so they don't have all. They want to make sure that even if they have bulk, they want to keep it somewhere that they have space. But unfortunately, they don't because they do have a case where they keep singles, but they make sure they don't have too many. So, but only way they get singles if they have like certain sellers that they accommodate with, who they associate themselves with. If they approve them, they're willing to take the cards off their hands, and they possibly whether and then they share 50% of the card's value. But that's what I heard based on one of the vendors there, because even some, and it's unfortunate because some of the singles there are overpriced. But the reason behind that is not only because you're helping support your local store, but it's being split by 2 people, the local store as well as the vendor. But if you are just, my advice, even I can't really decide for you guys, but if you're just buying packs because you enjoy it, or you have some sort of curiosity, or like you feel this set is meant for you, like you are fond of the cards that are in there, if there's a lot of cards you're after, be my guest. I really can't argue because whatever I say doesn't really count. But just be aware of the misprints, the obviously like you see here, quality control. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of factors and Konami doesn't seem to care about that. And this is very important because this also affects the misprints also affect the your buyers. Buyers are going to look for whatever they can to get a discount. If your card has a smudge or has a scratch, or if it has any sort of artwork, or if it differs from the other cards based on artwork, or if there's some extra ink, then that's when they're going to say no, considering that's how much the market value is. But looking at this card, their excuse is going to be that it does not match the card's texture. So if you don't mind, could you give me a $5-10 discount or more, and I'm willing to take it off your hands. If you can move it, please, I appreciate it. Can you do me this favor, and I'm willing to buy it off you. But it all depends. But before you do, check the market price, check the value on TCG. But let's be real, Konami is pretty much killing this game, and it's proven constantly. I've heard from a lot of YouTubers saying that I cannot deny it because it's this endless cycle where they just keep printing all these, not all, but a, a certain number of these broken, overwhelming cards. And once these cards are printed and then they get reprinted, they hit them, they drop in value, and then they do the same thing, print even more broken cards that's better than the other. And that's the one thing that's very unfortunate about this game. That's one thing I cannot deny about Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that's the one thing. It really is unfortunate because it's like people believe that when a new archetype is being released, it always has to be the best. It has to be better than all the archetypes. One thing I can understand is it being stronger, it being more consistent, yes. But at the same time, those older archetypes need a chance to compete as well to make the game more balanced. You need to scale the game first. You need to give it a power cap. It needs a handicap where it's like, yeah, you build a deck that's consistent, but those other decks need to be able to contend. For example, I'm going to give a prime example, Pokemon. Even though they make new Pokemon, not all the Pokemon are better than the older Pokemon, in my opinion. I'll give an example. I feel like Charizard, even though he's the oldest Pokemon, he's from the very first region, the very first gen of Pokemon. I don't, considering the amount of upgrades again, I don't think any starter could outmatch him. For example, you have Arceus. Although he's newer to Charizard, I feel like all the other new legendaries can't seem to outmatch him. I don't think they're really a match for Arceus because you have the option to dictate to change Arceus's typing based on its plates. So even if something is new, does not mean it should be better than the previous. If you guys catch what I mean, there needs to be a power cap so people have the chance to play, utilize the teams they already have, so that the game does not go in shambles. And I don't know if I really made a valid argument. I don't know if it's clear to you guys, but to me it is. One thing I don't want to also mention the flaws, but the one positives I could say about Yu-Gi-Oh is they are making cards more generic staple cards more affordable. The ban list is important so that people don't have to worry about facing against the same broken decks for months and that they have a chance to compete. But one thing that needs to be addressed more with, yeah, you could say Konami is solving problems with this game. But one thing you also want to be able to solve is packs being opened, especially misprints. Obviously, cards being short printed. That's something that needs to be addressed. That I can't forget because problem is you have people out there that will defend Konami's illegal activities, their error of their ways, just to continue playing. It's one thing having a passion for a hobby, but at the same time, when you have a passion for something, there are times where you gotta also call it the negatives. You can't always be sugarcoating this game the way from what I've seen from the previous people, whenever you tend to be against the idea of what is going on within the community as well as this game. And it's a hobby that needs to be contained. And there's more that's going to be said. Be sure to subscribe to Monkey Fight TCG. He will not disappoint. As well as this here video that I'm making is because I agree and I approve of what he has to say. And this message goes out to him and for other YouTubers who do want to call out this problem, but then you have people who are trying to overshadow that and say that Yu-Gi-Oh is fine the way it is, when in reality there still needs to be adjustments made. Whether you believe that Konami is doing it is doing is trying to do the right cause, making the appropriate measures, whether they care about the community, if they're trying to help make their business. But one last thing I want to say, imagine if Konami didn't short print cards. Let me be specific. Let me be clear. Let's say consumers who buy the packs and there's a card that's a Starlight or whatever quarter century is worth $1,000. Let's say nobody pulls it after like 2 or 3 months. Then that may be proof that they are scamming the consumers. And Konami has to print these cards regardless. They have to make sure someone actually does pull them. Because also I should have included in the screenshots. There was I'm sure you might check Yassine's channel where there were people who were pulling literally 4 Starlight rares in each pack in their case. Not almost every pack, but a bunch of the packs. And that's a factory error. I can tell you that. That should be reason enough for Konami to be sued. But whoever made that decision, whoever was working and printed those Starlights, 4 Starlights in each pack, is most likely to get fired. But we don't know whether Konami might find out. We can't find out who's responsible. And if someone does, chances are they're going to get fired. But like I said before, if Konami decide to go the opposite route and decide not to print these cards, even though they mention that these cards will be printed in a high rarity with even more value, close to more than hundreds of dollars, close to 1,000, and nobody pulls it, then maybe that will be a case where someone will actually argue that Konami needs to be shut down. And then now they realize if they do that, like I mentioned, they'll lose their business. And that's one thing I want to bring up, which is very important because regardless if whether nobody even pulls the card, somebody has to. Because it's to confirm that it's to keep Konami at a good spot. They don't want any type of like criticism. And of course I want to mention they don't want to hear about people being talked about, people that you call out who are addicted to Yu-Gi-Oh, buying packs, whether it be being addicted to buying meta decks, because that will affect their business in a negative way, and which is very true because they actually want to cut people from calling out their hypocrisy and calling out the negatives that definitely criticize Konami. And I feel like I said enough here, but hope you guys get the point because whether I say something that might be accurate, regardless, you're always gonna have people that'll be against it. And I already know for a fact I do know my supporters, my true supporters, who can come to terms with me, who agree with me, who might try to explain and correct me. I'll be willing to appreciate and understand. But overall, this is going to be my opinion regards because that's how a rant should be handled. That's how a rant should be made. And it's to be real with yourself as well as your viewers. And like I said, enough is said. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to check for more upcoming content in the future. Be sure to check your notifications, comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.